Hello, I'm Matt Dyer, the CEO of Zilliqa, the OG Layer 1, and I'm also the CEO of Rolling Thunders, the gaming business building games on Zilliqa blockchain. We're an emerging hub that's tailored for ventures building in Web3 space. I'm here on Edge of NFT, the show that's allowing its listeners to emerge as an aficionado in Web3 and gaming.
Welcome to the Edge of NFT, the podcast that brings you the top 1% of Web3 today and what will stand the test of time. We explore the nuts and bolts of the business side and also the human element of how Web3 is changing the way we interact with the things we love. This podcast is for the dreamers, disruptors, and doers who are pumped about this ecosystem and driving where it goes next.
Hey, NFT curious listeners, stay tuned for today's episode to learn how an OG's Layer 1's venture arm has tackled Web3 gaming, coming out of the gate with unique and engaging first-person shooter game.
And why trusted verified is a core attribute of our guest today's personality and having a fruitful existence in the blockchain space.
Finally, we have a discussion around whether or not NFT winter is over, or at least in the midst of a spring thaw.
And yes, it's official. You can now dive into the captivating world of artificial intelligence with the Edge of AI podcast. Join us as we explore the frontiers of AI and its impact on our lives. Subscribe now on your favorite podcast platform and follow us on Twitter at edgeof_AI and LinkedIn for exciting updates and insights. You can also visit our new website at edgeofai.xyz.
Welcome to the Edge of NFT, the podcast created by Jeff Kelly, Ethan Jenny, and Josh Krieger, featuring a variety of top-notch guests and other hosts like myself, Richard Carthon.
It's another production of the Edge of Company, a quickly growing media ecosystem empowering the pioneers of Web3 tech and culture and responsible for other groundbreaking endeavors like the Outer Edge LA Innovation Festival.
Today's sponsored episode features Matt Dyer, CEO of Zilliqa and Rolling Thunders. Matt brings over 2 decades of enterprise experience to his role, where he oversees Zilliqa's operations and leads its global commercialization efforts. His focus is on creating commercial opportunities that resonate with blockchain ecosystem and token ecosystems. Zilliqa is an emerging hub tailored for ventures building in the Web3 space, and gaming is a vertical focus for Zilliqa Group. And Zilliqa and its venture business, RTZ, proudly presents its first gaming title, Web3 War, co-founded by Matt. This episode will delve into Zilliqa's role in integrating blockchain technology into the gaming sector, highlighting Web3 War's significance. The Zilliqa platform is one of the fastest and most advanced blockchain systems globally, dedicated to developing an open, interoperable blockchain to enhance financial inclusion, particularly in Southeast Asia. In this conversation with Matt, we'll explore Zilliqa's work in tokenization, future of online retail payments and cryptocurrencies like stablecoins. We'll also get an insight into the extensive capabilities of Zilliqa's platform and his industry's expertise. It's a pleasure to have you on the show today, Matt.
Richard, Josh, thanks for having me.
Yes, sir. When I found out we were chatting about having you on, I got pretty excited because I kind of got into the crypto world in 2017-18, and Zilliqa was one of those projects that crossed my computer as really interesting, and now here we are, all these years later, and we have you on the show. But you guys have quite a history.
Yeah, we're certainly one of the OGs in the space. As you said, 2017, I think ICO came out. 2019, we went live with our mainnet. For those people who don't know Zilliqa, we were first to market with sharding. Clearly, that first mover advantage has moved on now. But if you think about our pedigree, our background, our history, it's nice to still be here at the frontier of such an exciting industry.
Absolutely. And can you kind of tell us some of the sort of genesis story behind how Zilliqa got initially started and how it sort of evolved at this point?
Yes, it was really a thesis that was born out of the University of Singapore. Clearly, Bitcoin came out, Ethereum came out. There was this big bottleneck, which is still maybe a little bit of a challenge, but obviously we've got the scaling up capability now with layer 2s. But Zilliqa was very much about, you go into your Starbucks, you want to order a coffee. Typically, you stand in line waiting for your coffee. Zilliqa with sharding, everyone can queue up at the same time, be served, everyone's happy. So we're very much one of the blockchains that looked at UX is probably a key dimension that people need in the space. And the thesis at that time was very much about delivering sharding capability to maximize throughput. And if you think about the target sector back then, which in a way hasn't really changed, it's around how do we drive enterprise adoption? And having a stack or a blockchain that enabled the sharding technology enabled us to have conversations that were quite exciting at the time. So,
yeah, and as that's kind of been evolving throughout the years, it's been really cool to see how the ecosystem has been embracing a lot of different subsets of blockchain and where it can go. And one of the ways that you're doing that is through blockchain gaming. So you recently incubated Web3 War. It's a first-person shooter game in collaboration with Rolling Thunders. And this is positioned as your chain's first gaming title. Can you share more about this?
Yeah, so this stemmed back from, I guess, peak bull market last time. There was a lot of, gaming individuals coming to Zilliqa looking for big grants and money to kind of build the next game. Obviously, Axie Infinity was blowing up. There wasn't much domain expertise in Zilliqa specifically around gaming. So we felt that what is the best opportunity to maximize an outcome? Let's work with people who've got domain expertise in an industry. They've had experience in generating revenue, getting users, getting adoption, rather than coming at it potentially from a Web3 utopian mindset where, I don't know, everything's just going to work. So we had a bit of a reset at Zilliqa. We decided if we're going to focus in on different verticals, let's make sure we have people who got a better chance in terms of execution. And clearly, owning the blockchain capability and having the expertise, not just from a blockchain perspective, but from tokenomics, from liquidity management, from treasury management, from wallet management, from smart contract capability, it stood us in good stead to work with different individuals and ventures to deliver the applications and businesses they wanted. So gaming was the first use case we looked at. We hired a gentleman called Valentin Cabella, who's got a lot of experience in Web2 gaming, has had a couple of exits himself in the gaming space. He came on board, quickly identified there was a lack of infrastructure in place to drive adoption. So when he first came on board, I think he built out an SDK. I think we'd set him a couple of months time frame to build that SDK out. He built that, I think, within a week. He then said, if Zilliqa is looking to kind of drive adoption, we need a distribution engine to enable games to have, or content to have a distribution platform. So we very much looked at the Valve Steam model, whereby we kind of built out the infrastructure. We built a launcher so that anybody looking to build a game in Web3 or even Web2 for that matter can look to launch that from the Fusion Hub, which is where Web3 War is going to be, well, it's already launched, but the tokenization capabilities coming that we'll talk about a bit later on. So yes, it was very much about getting a domain expert on board, show the market what a good case study looks like in terms of, I guess, a layer one supporting a venture building that out. And then off the back of that, if we can get a use case that resonates with the market, it'd make it a lot easier to attract developers and gamers to come and want to build on Zilliqa. And at the same time, in parallel, we were also doing partnerships with 3 esports teams, some big players in the space. So we did one with Ninjas in Pyjamas, who are quite iconic in the space. We did a partnership with Mad Lions, and I think Overwatch Media out of Canada are their parent company. And we also did one in Southeast Asia, RRQ. So if you start to think about, we've got the distribution, we've got the games, we've got professional esports players who can actually demonstrate and play our games on a global market, it starts to become quite a nice ecosystem to kind of build into, in that they can activate their games into our market. And
so just a clarifying question there, because you use the word we. Is Zilliqa set up in a similar way as a lot of L1s, where you have like the decentralized token economy, and then you have like a sort of a governance association that's chartered with sort of simulating the ecosystem and has a portion of the tokens that they can sort of allocate towards ecosystem development. Is that how it works?
A great question. So Zilliqa actually is a public blockchain. So like all the other layer ones who've got a platform that anyone can build on, which is really cool. We've also got a governance token as part of our ecosystem, which can make decisions on, I don't know, validator type capability. Do we move to proof of stake and good things like that? And then Zilliqa Group itself is not a foundation like your Cardanas of the world. We're a private venture who's very much about driving revenue out of that Zilliqa Group. And then off the back of that, supporting the ecosystems and projects looking to build on our public chain. So it's slightly different to your Cardanos, but I think as we're starting to see the market mature, a lot of those foundations, while they might say they're foundations, are really about proving out how they can generate revenue and maximize profits, which I think...
Yeah, which is fine, right? I mean, there's nothing wrong with that, and I think that you guys have just sort of taken a direct approach there in terms of doing that. But from a perspective of like ecosystem development, there is a capitalistic element of building any blockchain out, where at the end of the day, what motivates humans to be involved in projects is to be able to generate revenue, right? And to generate profit. And so you all set up Zilliqa in a way that sort of stimulates that long term, which is, I think, the one piece of evidence we have in terms of whether or not that's working is you all are still around and growing the ecosystem. And that's not the case for every L1 and L2 that came up in that 2017, 2018 time period.
And still around that, Josh, it's a good point. We still have invested in a lot of projects. I think one of the first ones was well-known one, Unstoppable Domains. We've done other projects, like we've got a liquid staking application.
Cool. We just had Sandy on the show.
All right, cool. Well, yeah, Sandy, she's great. And then we've invested or giving grants to different projects, like a liquid staking project that's on Zilliqa, which is pretty cool, and a whole host of others. But I think just from a laser focus in trying to help and bootstrap and drive awareness of Zilliqa, you could argue, but also just prove out to the space that this industry isn't going anywhere. And if we can be one of the ones in the industry that shows use cases that are revenue generating, I think that's positive for everyone.
That's great. So let's talk for a minute about your upcoming token launch for Web3 Rewards called FPS. When's that happening? And we love to sort of focus on the utility side of tokens, and I think that's particularly important these days. What's some of the sort of fundamental utility built into FPS?
So FPS is the token that's going to power the economy within Web3 War, as you kind of intimate. I mentioned Axie Infinity previously. It was very much around, time and game and grinding pretty hard. We had a thesis really that people want to play games that are enjoyable, and I think everyone's kind of woken up to that mantra. But thinking about Web3, how do you drive that value transfer to people who are grinding and having fun in games? There's concepts in Web2 around things like battle passes, the ability to play people and as teams or as individuals, and maybe wager that your skill is better than the other person that you're playing with. And by virtue of the token, we're kind of built out a skill to earn moniker, which enables you, if you're good at playing first-person shooters, you can come to the Web3 gaming platform, buy a battle pass or stake your tokens to then show how good you are at dominating a first-person shooter. So very much we see it as a mechanism to reward people for time in game, which is important. If you're looking at revenue generating opportunities as well in terms of the platform, There's the ability to buy music streaming as part of that game. So if, I don't know, if you're a streamer, if you're a player and you want to have music that's not, that has got copyrights associated with it, again, there's a requirement to buy, use your FPS tokens to buy that. We've got skins within the game, again, a mechanism that you need to have to purchase. So there's quite a lot of things within the economy built around this skill to earn idea, which we think is quite cool, that should drive people to want to play. And then if you think about guilds and guilds looking for an alternative to generate revenue, if you find games like, I guess, like Shrapnel or Web3 War, which has got the ability to earn as a group or as a collective to play a game, that starts to become quite an attractive thing to do. So we're quite excited about the opportunities there. And then if you think about the wider Zilliqa ecosystem as well, and being able to potentially start to move your FPS token into other applications around what we're building, again, things start to be quite exciting. So yeah, really is based around this. Sorry, go on.
No, I was just going to say, man, like, that's really cool. This is one of the first skill to earn types of experiences that I've heard. And as you're explaining it, I really wanted to just like re-emphasize everyone listening, especially if you're a gamer like myself, like how they're putting in these mechanics that reward skill, and not necessarily just the grind of doing something over and over again. Like, I think it's a really cool component. And you were actually getting into another question that I was curious to learn more about, which was, you know, some of the rewards around the FPS tokens, which has to do with some of the being able to bring NFTs cross-gaming, cross-platform. And I think it's another really cool inference of being able to keep everything within the ecosystem of Zilliqa. So can you kind of tell us a little bit more about that and some more of the mechanics that will come into the cross-NFT opportunities and the rewards that come with the FPS tokens?
Yeah, I think the first project I've really heard about that was Illuvium, where I think they've got the ability, or talking about the ability to move NFTs cross game, which I think is really exciting. From our perspective, when you think about the value transfer, ownership, and making sure that the value is kind of with you as a player, we very much came at the ethos, right? We've got the first title, Web3 War. There's a second title, which is a looter, shooter, extract game, which is coming next. And then from our perspective, we've built in the ability to take your skins or digital assets from Web3 War and then leverage them in the second title. We're still trying to work out how many games in that specific genre we're going to do in terms of taking your NFTs across into those games. But again, we've built that mechanic in from a middleware perspective, that capability is there. So I'm excited to kind of get that game up and running and show people what the Web3 ethos is all about. And again, it comes back to this thing. Can we show case studies where value is transferred? We feel what we've kind of built out, or Valentine and the team at Rolling Thunders have built out in terms of the skill to earn, in terms of the NFT value transfer across game, I think is going to definitely stand the space in good stead.
Let me ask you a question, Matt. You know, a lot of folks have entered the gaming side of Web3 just in the last 3 years. A lot of these games are still being developed. I'm in the Game 7 just released a report about the state of Web3 gaming, and we talked about it on the show. We got a sense that a good amount of investment has made here, and there's just like this general debate or discussion around sort of AAA versus non-AAA. How long does it take to build a game that's really sort of going to win over the masses? Where is all this going? Clearly, you guys have thought a lot about this stuff because you've taken a very intentional approach with this first game and the second game coming out. But where do you kind of fall out on all of this? Is 2024 the year for Web3 gaming? And that narrative to shift to look, we've built some real stuff now. Or is it going to take a little longer to mature? And how important is, AAA type of games to the ecosystem?
Yeah, I think the media wants to kind of focusing on AAA. Again, Shrapnel's raised a hell of a lot of money, which is great to build out a AAA game.
But they've also had their challenges, right?
Yeah, and I think that's clear. We've got quite a lean team. I think from our perspective as well, with what Valentine brought with him, had some IP that we could kind of leverage, which has enabled us to accelerate and bootstrap what we've got. So I do think next year we are going to see a lot more titles coming to market on the promise that people are going to want to come and play. And I'm hopeful, because I guess we've taken away a lot of the complexity around wallets and all that good stuff, which, to be honest, is still too difficult. Let's be honest with it. And we hope that with what we've got, it's going to be very easy for people to play. And then the reality comes is, like, Richard's a big gamer. He has a play of Web3 War. He finds it fun for 10, 15 minutes, hyper casual. And then he starts to understand, actually, I made a little bit there. Go buy my pizza or buy the wife or the girlfriend something off the back of playing, and she might moan a little bit less. I think that's where we kind of need to get to, where people just come in, have a play, and it's maybe not about making, I don't know, the $1 million returns around it. It's really about getting gamers to come and play it. As I say, we've had the likes of Ninjas in Pyjamas, Mad Lions, professional players play it. They find it fun, engaging. So I don't see why we can't start to see adoption. So maybe if we can get the media to change the narrative really around the AAA, AA, I think it's more around let's just get the games out. Let's get people playing.
And I think to your point, it's about AAA fun, not AA fun, right? Like, Mochaverse just did a gaming partnership with a pixel game, and it's 8-bit graphics, but it's a fun game to play. I think what's going to be imperative, and this is sort of what keeps me coming back to games, is that they're a lot of fun. No one wants to gamify an experience where they don't actually enjoy the game longer than a week because it's just about the earning, right? It's got to actually be fun. Like that's how we live our lives. And I think that perspective is refreshing.
Yeah, I think the thing as well is, if it's just about yield farming and just checking your bags every day, it does get a little bit tedious. There's got to be more to life than just that. So I think very much it's around, as you said, let's get something that people want to play. They earn a little bit. And then actually, by virtue of that, they start to be educated around what is the opportunity in Web3. So maybe this is the way we can educate in a soft way. People start to understand things about identity, self-custody, ownership, and then everyone can start to kind of implement all the smarts and the capability that we all want to see, but we're still probably 10 years away from executing against, if we're being brutally honest with ourselves.
Oh, for sure. And one of the things that you just brought up that I think is really critical is around lessons that we've learned from previous things that have happened, right? From previous Playdarn games where that did yield farming and other pieces of this, but just not just in the gaming space, but Zilliqa as a whole from an ecosystem. You've been around for several cycles now. You've been around since 2017 and have had so much happen. What do you think are some of the key lessons that you've learned, and how has it shaped your view on Web3 and its future adoption?
I think the biggest thing that I've learned being in this space is that there's too much opportunity. And you can, based on smart contracts, you can create whatever your mind conjures up. So therefore, from actually executing on an application or a business, it can be very challenging. So I think the grind of building businesses is not much fun. It's difficult, it's challenging, there's the ups and the downs. And I think if we get more people who've got experience from building businesses, who can come into the space, set the benchmark, and understand what the grind is to make sure things are successful, I think we'll be in a lot better space. I think having the skills and the people that are in the space married to people with maybe a little bit more experience to kind of drive that sustainability is probably the big one that we are trying to look for in projects that we kind of work with. You still need the flair and the kind of people who are totally out there to kind of move the market forward, but we need a filler in of projects who are maybe a bit more kind of vanilla in terms of what they're doing, but they actually deliver an outcome.
Yeah. I was going to say, to add to that, like, there's been a lot of flair, like you said, but we found that it's unsustainable in a lot of ways, and it does get people excited and potentially in the door, but it doesn't keep them. And I think finding a way to have some vanilla with flair that gets people in, but then they stick around, and then like they're that dedicated diehard type of community and ecosystem, that is where we get to that path of sustainability, and we get more of people who keep coming back and enjoy and actually become patrons and go and tell and like get people to come and join the community as well. But it can't just be like the quick check mark and then back down, right? We got to get out of this cyclicalness.
Yeah. I mean, we've had over 300 episodes of this show talking with incredible founders like yourself, and I think you hit on something really important. What attracts all of us to this space is also an albatross, which is this abundance of choice and possibility, right? And where does that intersect with market demand and focus? During these hype cycles, there's a lot of ADD in our space as well. A lot of shiny objects that can be distracting, and it sounds like you guys have kind of gone back to traditional business principles in terms of focus and build something awesome, and good things will happen. So I appreciate your perspective there, and really just curious like what your roadmap looks like beyond what you've discussed already.
In terms of Zilliqa or in terms of Rolling Thunders?
Let's talk about both. Let's start with Rolling Thunder and then zoom out to Zilliqa.
Okay, so I think from Rolling Thunder's perspective, key thing is to get this game out, get the TGE done, get people playing and leveraging the skill to earn mechanic. I think we're looking to try and get that enabled end of Jan, start of Feb in terms of that capability. It's already been tested on testnet. The game's live now in terms of playing, so you can grind, play, have a bit of fun, getting ready for when that capability comes out. There'll be the second game that comes off the back of that, which I've already kind of alluded to. And then as we kind of demonstrate the platform and the kind of the Fusion hub in terms of the launcher, we'd like to think that we can get games that haven't been made by Rolling Thunders to come onto the chain and want to leverage the platform for distribution and everything else. So I think it's very much about driving growth off the back of the case studies that we're doing. So really excited for that. Other areas that I guess Zilliqa Group still focused in is we still talk to a lot of enterprises in terms of activating in the Web3 space. And if you think about verticals that we're focused in on, we've got gaming, I've just alluded to. I've talked about, or haven't talked about, we've got metaverse and spatial web, which is still drawing a lot of attention. And I was actually at a lunch just before this podcast talking to an established brand around how do they activate in Web3, which is pretty cool. And then loyalty is another big horizontal, which I think underpins a lot of what a lot of the blockchain players are trying to do in terms of underpinning growth. We recently did a partnership with a racing league who have got quite an exciting physical presence in the UK, and they're looking to embed loyalty to try and attract more users into their events physically. But clearly there's the ability to then transcend into the digital space from a virtual racing. We've seen things like ZRun, we've seen Photo Finish Live and a few others been very successful. But if you look at what we've got in terms of the partnerships, we've got the likes of Frankie Dettori, we've got Arena Racing involved. So we've actually got IP we can start to leverage and use, which I think is going to be important moving forward. And then even with the esports teams, we've got a token play that's going to be quite cool coming with each of the esports team that's going to start to embed into their Web2 loyalty program. So tokenization of applications is a big focus, especially with the brands that we're talking to. And we feel that if we can drive some good case studies, that will start to kind of get people to open their eyes to what Zilliqa are doing. And then when we think about yield farming and all that other good stuff that people love doing, if they see Zilliqa and we've got a lot of wallets, we've got a lot of users that they can potentially start to convert from some of the stuff that we're doing with these partnerships that we're building out, then Zilliqa becomes an alternate place to edge or hedge to kind of drive some growth. So yeah, pretty bullish in terms of the things that we're kind of doing, it's maybe one of those hidden gems that people have forgotten about. It's definitely kind of coming really aggressive back into the market.
Oh, for sure. We definitely appreciate you sharing all this insight. Before the show, I was telling you about a friend of mine in Austin who is a diehard Zilliqa ecosystem member, and was telling me back in April, like, "Hey man, don't sleep on Zilliqa. They got some really cool stuff coming out." And sure enough, here you are. We're going to talk in real time. You're telling us about Web3 War and what's coming and everything else with Zilliqa. I know. Just hearing you, I'm more bullish, and I'm going to keep my ears to the ground on what else is to come. But I'm excited for that. But I'm also
I'm going to be the voice in the back saying not financial advice, but yeah, really cool. Go ahead, Richard.
One thing I didn't actually mention is probably going to be a big catalyst. We went EVM compatible about 7-8 months ago now. And if you think about Zilliqa before, we had our own smart contract language, which I still think will have a place in a couple of years when people start focusing in on the smart contract language. But now we've got a whole raft of developers who never could form or build applications on Zilliqa because of our programming language, which took them too long to get up to speed on. We've now kind of broken that boat down. So if you think about some of the applications that we're starting to see, there's a money market protocol that went live about 4 weeks ago. It's a fork of Venus Protocol. Community projects built out an EVM DEX to kind of complement what we're doing there. We've got liquid staking that was enabled quite recently. So if you start to see the economy starting to build out by the fact we've got the DeFi money market or economy that's going to sit underneath the token economy that we're building, which we never had in the last, market kind of push. I think that sets Zilliqa up very well. Try and drive projects to come and build on what we're doing.
Yeah, that's awesome.
And excited to hear about that. We're also excited to learn more about you as we go into this next segment, which has to do with our Edge Quick Hitters. So Edge Quick Hitters is a fun and quick way to get to know you a little bit better. There are 10 questions. We're looking for just a short single or few word response, but feel free to expand if you get the urge. Are you ready?
Go for it.
All right. I know you've listened to a show, so you have a little bit of advantage over some folks that are coming in completely cold. You'll be fine. What is the first thing you remember ever purchasing in your life?
Embarrassing. I'm not sure if it's still a thing. Marbles.
Nice. I was just watching the Squid Game reality show on Netflix this past weekend. I wasn't feeling too well, and that was like a flashback to Marbles, but in a very different light. So Marbles.
I've not actually seen that, so maybe you should check it out.
Yeah. It'll give you a whole new perspective on Marbles. All right. So next question, Matt. What is the first thing you remember ever selling in your life?
Probably selling myself, maybe. I used to be in the Cubs. So when you used to go round to do Bob a job, people would pay for your time. So I guess that was my first experience of making money.
All right. So sort of like fix this or bring this over here or
cut the grass or whatever. Yeah, exactly. You know it.
Yeah. Essentially, the Cubs are kind of like an early version of TaskRabbit.
Well, exactly that.
That's cool. What is the most recent thing you purchased?
Good question. Two bikes actually for my children.
Nice.
One of them Joshi wanted a BMX, so I had to go out and buy him one. His legs were getting a bit longer, so.
That's great.
That's great, man. Bikes are such a great time. I love doing it myself. My wife wanted one earlier this year, and we now go take that out. It's a great time. So great gift. What is the most recent thing you sold?
Good question. I probably don't have time to sell that much, but if you're counting my wife as somebody that sells stuff, probably something on Vinted, to be honest. She's always on this. She's always buying stuff, and then at least she's selling stuff as well. So yeah, Vinted probably the last thing I sold.
All right. I'll have to tell my girlfriend about that one. She uses a lot of those sites, but I haven't heard that one.
Pretty good.
Cross her plate. Yeah. Cool. What is your most prized possession?
It's got to be the family. The kids and the wife.
without a shadow of a
doubt.
There we go.
There you go. And if you could buy anything in the world, digital, physical, service, experience that's currently for sale, what would it be?
The next
Monster Bull Run, no?
Can I say
that?
Yeah.
Absolutely.
I think we've all been dying for the last 2-3 years. I think we need a bit of fun in our lives again. So
let's go LFG.
No, for sure.
If you could pass on one of your personality traits to the next generation, what would it be?
I think it's about
being humble. To be honest, I think there's a lot of people
have got a lot
of self-importance about who they are, what they do, and everything else. Sometimes it's just listen to people, be humble, and let's just try and get on because life is too short.
I love it.
I think one of the downfalls of social media, unfortunately, is that everyone has an opinion, and unfortunately, people share them without necessarily taking that humility that you're saying with it. So I think that's a great gentle reminder. But on the flip side of that, if you could eliminate one of your personality traits from the next generation, what would it be?
Which is probably make
more trust and verify, which
funny thing
saying in this space, which is what it should be all about. But yeah,
I don't know if it's
a flaw or not. I've always been very trusting of people. I struggle to lose that, and that's probably maybe the one thing that I would try and remove. I don't know how you get that filter on, but yeah, that's probably it.
And it's not a bad.
And it's not a bad thing, man. I think
coming from a good place
and you want the best in people, but unfortunately, there's a lot of people out there that don't want the same back for you and take advantage of it. So I don't think I've heard that answer before. So I like that. I appreciate that one.
Absolutely.
Matt,
what do you do? You kind of alluded to it, but what did you do just before joining us on this podcast?
Went for a really nice lunch actually with a potential customer. They're trying to activate Web3, so we went, had the conversation.
Everyone was
excited. We talked about anything you dream of, you can do. And it's just trying to work out with them is where do they start, which is always the hard point.
Nice. So it's been a while since I've been back in London, but I hear you guys have quite the food scene now.
Yeah, it's pretty
good. Max, one of the founders, I went for lunch with him. So he's a member of a few private members clubs, which are quite nice. So hence the shirt and the suit on today. Had to look the part.
But yes,
there's lots of great places to eat in London. To be honest, can't fault it.
Yeah. For those of you on audio, Matt's wearing a nice dapper suit, and no, we didn't ask him to dress up, but we're honored that he did. Matt, what are you going to do next after the podcast?
I'm gonna go to
Liverpool Street train station and get the train home, and hopefully the kids have gone to sleep, so I don't have to deal with that.
Nice.
Well,
and Richard,
Richard,
do we have a bonus question for Matt today?
We sure do.
Since we were talking about gaming today, I thought it was appropriate to ask, what was the first game you personally got addicted to and why?
First game.
I used to play a lot of soccer when I was younger. Professional soccer player for the team. And ISS Pro Evolution was the first game that I got addicted to. And the day my little brother, who's 8 years younger than me, beat me was probably the last day that I played that game.
That's hilarious.
Wow.
It's so good.
I'll have to
check that one out.
But just being a diehard FIFA fan, I can understand like much little brother, like especially the sibling rivalries. Like I get it.
Yeah, he destroyed me, unfortunately.
So Luke, that one's for you, mate.
There you go. Hey Matt. So we've got a little time. So if you're up for it, why don't you join us for hot topics? We're gonna just cover a couple things going on in the news, and feel free to join the conversation if you have the urge. Sound good?
Let's go for
it. I'm probably not as focused as I used to be in terms of what's going on, but I did keep my eye to the ground. So yeah, let's go for it.
All right. Well, it doesn't mean you don't have to be like totally all in to have an opinion, right? So you get to wear your co-host hat for this one. So first, gents, let's talk about Ethereum NFT creators scramble to secure projects from third web vulnerability.
So here's the deal here is that some creators of Ethereum NFT projects are now scribbling to secure their collections after Third Web, a prominent crypto development platform, disclosed issues with its smart contracts late Monday. This is last Monday. So early December for those of you that listen later. They wrote that there was a security vulnerability in a commonly used open source library for Web3 smart contracts. It was discovered in its effect pre-built contracts that sort of, and these are contracts that hold the code that power autonomous decentralized apps and NFT collections. So a little bit scary there to sort of find out this information. And apparently it was due to some seriousness, pretty serious vulnerability with the open source library, which was the root of the exploit. And Open Zeppelin, a widely used open source library for smart contracts, has since come out to say that the issue isn't tied to its repository. It's a little bit of like pointing here, and basically, Third Web has come out and sort of offered to help lock down contracts, help people migrate, do some airdropping, cover the network fees. So they're being pretty comprehensive with sort of addressing the issue. But man, what a nightmare if you're one of those projects and sort of this wasn't what you were planning to do around the holidays, right?
Yeah, if there's
one thing about Web3, you're going to get punched in the nose pretty much every day. How do I feel about it? I think it shows the beauty of open source in that there's a project, there's a contract, everyone can fork it, everyone can use it, which is brilliant. Challenges come, I guess, in that if there is a vulnerability, everyone that's forked that is affected. So I guess that is the downside of the space. But one, I think people playing it understand. What I do like on the flip side, though, is how the community comes together. People are there to support each other, to plug the gaps and do what's kind of needed. So I think it shows both sides of it. We're still early. There's going to be vulnerabilities coming for a long time. And I think it's just how does the community react to kind of plug those gaps. And I think we've seen firsthand that the community is strong and doing the best they can to fill the gap. Would be my take.
Look, for sure. Something that you said earlier resonated with me as Josh was reading that, which was trust but verify. Unfortunately, for a lot of people coming in the space that are trying to build, they're going to have to trust because they can't necessarily verify. They're not necessarily coders. And if you're going to a platform that's saying like, hey, we're going to help you do X, Y, Z, you're kind of just going on the trust of the word that they said they can do it. So for Third Web to at least step up and say like, hey, we're sorry for this, we're going to help make this right. X, Y, Z. I think that's great that the willingness to do that, because unfortunately there's been several projects that chose not to go that way because it is costly and a lot of steps to get it done correctly. But the other side of it too. Talk about chaos. Now you've created this NFT project. You've got your whole community. You've got them to trust you on there too. And now that's kind of been tarnished as well because there's potential vulnerability in what they own. So there's like all these ripple effects with it. For early, we're still going to keep figuring these things out. There's going to be vulnerabilities in a lot of this coding, unfortunately, and with these smart contracts. And hackers going to hack. People are going to keep trying to find ways to find vulnerabilities. But I think the big lesson here is for companies that are going to be giving open source and having people build on top of having plans in place in case things go wrong like this, I think are very valuable and necessary.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
I think trust is something that is built over time, and we talk about the power of decentralization is that you don't have to trust because it's in the code. But of course, in this sort of hybrid world of partial decentralization, there is code that different parties control, and there are situations like this that sort of are on the periphery of what's decentralized, what's not, what can we control, and that's where it's the incremental things that everyone does every day, and how they communicate that makes all the difference in the space. So appreciate what you both shared.
We got one more
hot topic today, which is a very relevant one. Is NFT winter over?
prices climb as Bitcoin and Ethereum surge. I'm sure we've all sort of been watching these charts actively. It's been a big resurgence in activity in the space. We've seen folks like the founder of Bored Ape Yacht Club sort of actively doing some purchasing. But as top altcoins, including Ethereum and Solana, continue to steadily pump, largely in the winds of Bitcoin's tremendous persistence, now week-long price rally, NFT collections associated with those networks now appear to be along for the ride. One of those big ones we've seen sort of move north has been Pudgy Penguins, which jumped at the time this article is written 74% in USD floor price in the last week alone, according to NFT Price Floor. And the trading volume on Pudgy Penguins has also shot up 394% in that week, according to CryptoSlam, to nearly $7.5 million worth of NFT sales. Meanwhile, Ethereum's steady price increase for the last few weeks as well has accounted for some of these good fortunes. Since Thanksgiving, the cryptocurrency Ethereum has climbed just 7.7%. I think it's gone up a little bit more than that at this point, and now of course it's retreading a little bit. But from what I've seen, most of these Web3 projects, NFT projects have kind of gone up 5 to 50% over the last few weeks. And this has been across the board. I think what's fascinating to me, fellas, about this is normally when you see Bitcoin rise, everything else kind of follows suit, but not so rapidly, not so in time, in parallel with Bitcoin. Usually there's a little bit more time that sort of transpires between those two activities. And here we're seeing them, almost in real time. I think for me that intuitively indicates a lot of pent-up energy and folks that have been waiting for a moment. So it's sort of like a mini hype cycle within sort of the sort of increase in Bitcoin price. I also think it sort of does address that question: Are NFTs dead? Which we never felt like NFTs are dead. But certainly the mainstream media talks about, and here we have sort of a micro example that there's some correlation here with the general markets, and as people have more disposable income, they're going to sort of get back to something they enjoy, which is trading NFTs. So those are some of my initial thoughts. What do you guys think?
Richard, do you want to go first?
Yeah. So above all, the question is the winter over? I think we are getting closer to spring. I think we are on the outer edge of winter. I don't know that we're necessarily out of the woods just yet, but I do think we're starting to get some embers. We're starting to get some wind blowing on the embers to form us up and get us closer to a spring. Because when I look at the greater overall NFT marketplace, unfortunately, like we saw from the 2018 to the 2020 market, when just in the cryptos in general, you saw anywhere from an 85% to 98% retracement, and we've definitely seen that in the last NFT market, right? And for a lot of these projects, even though they're starting to warm up a little bit, they're still down 95%, right? So I think things are warming back up, but I think also what's cool about the projects that are still around and remaining, they've been forced to come up with utilities. They've been forced to build community in like hardcore, like here's why we're here, here's why we're staying, we're holding this bag, and we're not getting rid of it, right? Like we're here into perpetuity. It doesn't matter what this price goes down to, because it doesn't matter. Like we're part of this community. And as the spring starts to come back, they're going to be rewarded. And I also think as these new people that come into these different communities and these new utilities are being shown to the new and emerging people coming out, it's going to cause this new moment of hype. And I think we're pretty close to that. And I think that's how I'm kind of looking at it right now. So I don't think we're out of winter, but I think we're getting closer to spring.
I think it's getting a little bit warmer. I think you made a good point. Is it Pudgy Penguins? Are they not the ones that have got some collaboration or selling physical products?
I mean Walmart. Like they have a partnership with Walmart. Yeah.
So I think from my perspective, irrespective of, I guess, the price, and I'm glad the prices are moving. I think if there's utility, as you said, Richard, attributed to the NFTs, and people can see the intrinsic value in that, whether that's a physical Pokemon card linked to a digital asset, or a kind of a classic car linked to an NFT. And things people can understand and kind of translate, then I think we're going to come out of the market. And I think we're seeing some stuff in Solana where I think there's some insane traffic on, I can't remember, Tensor or one of the marketplaces. Maybe that's been driven around an airdrop that happened on another project, and people are starting to ape in and hope that they're going to get some kind of airdrops around that. But it does show you that people are starting to get back into the space, starting to look at kind of what's there. And let's see what utility comes from all these other NFT projects. And we're very much, I guess, from our perspective, looking at when we are doing NFT kind of drops in terms of our approach, is very much around what is the value add that we can contribute utility-wise to those NFTs. So yeah.
Definitely.
Well, we definitely appreciate that take. This is going to wrap up our quick hitters, our hot topic for today. And so many cool things happening as we wrap up this year. I'm sure there's going to be even more as we kind of go into 2024. But we always like to go and finish strong before we wrap up with a couple of shout outs. And I know that you have a couple that you would like to share with us today. So who are you wanting to shout out today?
I think first and foremost, it's got to be the Zilliqa community. I think it might be a bit cliche, but it's been a long bear market. It's been quite quiet at Zilliqa with our head down, kind of building. So maybe not as prominent, as vocal on socials that they probably want, but hopefully they're starting to see the fruits of our labour come to fore. I think Web3 War and the effort and work the Rolling Thunders team and Zilliqa blockchain team have put in to support getting Web3 War to where it is. A big shout out to them, and for Valentine Cabella for what you've done, and I guess taking Zilliqa to a new level, or the ecosystem to a new level from gaming deserves a big shout out. So yeah, I think that's probably
is Valentine hanging out on Twitter these days?
He is. I can maybe share. He goes by Sheriff maybe. Let me see what his details are. You can find him at. Just double check. There it is. I think it's Valentin Cobella. So VALENTIN COBELEA. Go and find the Sheriff.
All right.
Yeah. And you can find me at Matt Dyer on Twitter. I've been quiet for about a year, but I'm back.
All right. Well, you've been building. And you sort of mentioned where you are. If folks want to learn more about the projects that you're working on, where do they go to check out those projects?
I think go to Twitter. Web3 War is the first handle from there. I think there's a drop down in terms of working out where you need to get to for white papers and all that good stuff. Other projects like Ionize, definitely go and have a look at them from a liquid staking perspective. There's Plunder Swap, the DEX, Avily Finance again. They're kind of the liquid staking, doing a great job. And then Zilliqa.com is kind of obviously a place to find out about the basics. And then another partnership we've done with Racing League. I think it's Racing League UK. I definitely follow them. There's a lot of alpha to come out of that project. Would be my hot tip.
Awesome. Thanks so much, Matt, for a really vibrant conversation today. Learned a lot about what you guys are cooking up and where Zilliqa is going. I think this is the beginning of a lot more content to come together. So appreciate your time today.
And thanks very much for having me. I really enjoyed it.
We've reached the outer limit at the edge of NFT for today. Thanks for exploring with us. We've got space for more adventures on the Starship, so invite your friends and recruit some cool strangers that will make this journey also much better. How? Go to Spotify or iTunes right now. Rate us and say something awesome, then go back to edgeofnft.com to dive further down the rabbit hole. Look us up on all major social platforms by typing Edge of NFT with no spaces. Start a fun conversation with us online, and also feel free to join our newsletter by subscribing at edgeofnft.com. Lastly, be sure to tune in next time for more great Web3 content. Thanks again for sharing this time with us today.
The views and opinions expressed on Edge of NFT reflect solely those views and opinions of the show hosts and its guests. Please make sure to do your own research. Our show is not financial advice. You understand that you are using any and all information available on or through this podcast at your own risk. Whenever making financial decisions, we recommend doing your own research and talking to your accountant for financial advice. From time to time, we may feature sponsored content on the show for which we receive value, and we may share links for which we receive a commission if you make a purchase through one of those links. Refer to our website, www.edgeofnft.com, for our full disclaimer, terms and conditions, and privacy policy.